Well, honey, from today on, you'll be buying your own groceries. I'm tired of you constantly draining my wallet, my husband declared. I agreed. Later, there was Darius's birthday, and as usual, he dragged in a dozen relatives who wanted to eat their fill at someone else's expense. The moment they stepped into the kitchen, they were practically speechless. "You have any idea how much I spend on you?" Darius asked, looking at me as if I'd just stolen his last kidney to sell on the black market. "Welcome to my channel. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and gave my video a like. Now, let's jump into the story. I'm sure you'll enjoy it till the end." I stood in the hallway with 3 heavy bags from the grocery store. The handles were cutting deeply into my palms, and I thought, aha, so this is how it's going to be. I hadn't even taken off my coat or kicked off my shoes. That's when he started. A minute ago, everything was normal. I had unlocked the door with my key, called out our usual hey, and heard a mumbled sound of acknowledgement from the living room. A perfectly normal Monday evening. Nothing special. I began unpacking the groceries in the kitchen. The milk went into the fridge, the bread into the bread box, the vegetables into the bottom drawer. And then he walked in, positioned himself in the doorway, crossed his arms over his chest, that decisive macho pose, and announced his brilliant statement about expenses. "I'm Simone, by the way, 39 years old. I work as a financial analyst for a major retail corporation. Numbers are my thing. I feel them, I understand them, I see right through them. I earn $5,000 net after all taxes. Not bad, right? For our city, that really isn't bad." "Seriously, Simone," he continued, stepping into the kitchen and leaning over me. I was busy sorting the tomatoes. "Have you ever considered how much it costs to feed you?" Feed? I particularly disliked that word, as if I were some kind of pedigreed cat or a caged canary. "Well, sure," he waved off my look. "But look at the facts. Who pays the mortgage? I do. Who buys the appliances for the house? I do. Whose salary paid for our vacation this summer? Mine." I froze, a package of rice in my hand. We had indeed gone to Cancun that summer. He had paid for the all-inclusive package. True, I had paid for all the excursions, our lunch and dinner at the restaurants, his new shorts and shirts he bought there, and my new swimsuit, which he insisted I buy because my old one looked like a rag. But the trip itself, yeah, he had paid for that. "All right," I said. "What are you getting at?" It had all started with his fishing trip last weekend, as I later understood. Darius had returned late Saturday evening. Stinking, dirty, but strangely buoyant. I figured he'd just had a good time, drinking beer with his buddies, taking a break from me. That's normal, right? A man needs his decompression time. But no. It turned out that around the campfire, between glasses of whiskey and stories about the giant bass that got away, his friends had opened his eyes to his family life. Specifically, it was Corey, his college buddy who works in IT and fancies himself especially progressive. Corey is married to Nia. They live with separate bank accounts. Everyone pays for themselves. And for them, you see, everything is honest and transparent. And now Darius, after viewing the supposed happiness of others through the haze of alcohol, had decided that our home was ruled by a single injustice, that, in short, I was a parasite living off his dime. A freeloader, you could say. "Listen, Simone." He sat down on a chair, slouched, and crossed his legs, looking important. "I've been thinking. We need to change our system because the current situation is kind of unclear." "What's unclear about it?" I put the kettle on, filled it with water, and switched it on. I wanted tea. Badly. "Well, look. I work. I earn money. You work too. You earn too. But somehow, I feel like all the expenses fall to me." I turned around and looked at him closely. He sat there, serious, important, and truly believed what he was saying. "The expenses fall to you?" I repeated. "Of course. The mortgage, the car, the big purchases, that's all me. I'm the man. I have to do that. But Corey explained to me that in civilized countries, it's different. Everyone is responsible for themselves. You understand?" I got out 2 mugs. his favorite one with the logo of a basketball team, a simple white one for me. I propose that we switch to that kind of system too. He stood up, came closer, and placed his hands on my shoulders, presumably to sound more persuasive. Simone, look, we're modern people. Why do we need this baggage from the past, where the man pays for everything for everyone and the woman supposedly doesn't have to do a thing? What exactly are you proposing? I got out strong black tea. We simply split everything 50-50. I pay for myself, you pay for yourself. We'll divide the utilities, everyone buys their own groceries, and so on. Totally fair, totally transparent. Totally fair, totally transparent? I repeated. Yes, exactly. He became animated. Corey and Nia have been living like this for 3 years, and they're in complete harmony, no accusations against each other. Nia even says it disciplines her a lot. She spends less on nonsense. I poured boiling water over the tea, covered the mugs with saucers, and waited 30 seconds. "And when do you want to start this?" I asked in the calmest voice possible. "Well, let's start tomorrow. The first of the month is inconvenient. It's already the middle of the month. You're not against it, are you?" I poured the tea. Mine first, then his, adding sugar. 2 spoonfuls to his, mine without. I placed his mug in front of him on the table and sat opposite him. "I'm not against it," I said calmly. "Let's give it a try." You should have seen his face. He had clearly prepared for a different scenario. Tears, a fit of rage. How could you do this to me after all these years? Hurt feelings, accusations, maybe even throwing dishes. But I just agreed. Seriously? He was visibly confused. Seriously? That's a great modern idea. I like it. Perfect. Then it's settled. He breathed a sigh of relief. "I'm glad you're handling this so maturely. Many women would have made a scene." Maturely. I made a mental note of that word. It would come back to me often later. We finished our tea. Darius went into the living room and turned on the TV to watch the game. And I stayed in the kitchen and slowly, thoughtfully began washing the dishes. And I started thinking a lot. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to Darius snoring beside me, sleeping soundly, even smiling slightly in his sleep. And numbers were spinning in my head. I couldn't stop them. They arranged themselves into rows, adding, subtracting, multiplying. Utilities. Every month the bill comes to $450. Who pays it? I go into the banking app and transfer the money every month. For 11 months straight, ever since Darius forgot to pay last year and our hot water was shut off. Since then, it's been my responsibility. Internet and TV. $70 a month. Doesn't sound like much, but $40 of that $70 goes to the sports package that only Darius watches. I don't even turn on the TV. My laptop and basic internet are enough for me. Groceries. This is where it gets interesting. I go to the store every week, Wednesday after work, and Saturday morning. I buy everything, from bread to meat. Darius loves meat. Lots of meat. Steaks, cutlets, meatballs, barbecue meat. I'd be perfectly fine with chicken and fish, but no, he needs beef. Good beef, not the cheapest. On average, I spend $580 a month on groceries, sometimes more when there are holidays or we have guests. Household supplies, laundry detergent, fabric softener, dish soap, floor cleaner, bath cleaner, toilet cleaner, air freshener. Darius is obsessed with the smell of freshness in every room. Toilet paper, and not the cheap kind, because he once threw a fit when I bought regular instead of 3-ply. Napkins, sponges, trash bags, an average of $80 a month. I lay there and calculated. Then I got up, went to the kitchen, and pulled the shoebox out of the cabinet. That's where I keep all the receipts, a habit since my college days when I lived on a stipend and had to count every single penny. When I started earning money later, the habit stuck. Darius always made fun of it. "Why are you keeping all this paper trash?" And now, why? I sat down at the table, opened my laptop, launched Excel, and started entering the numbers, methodically, calmly. Each receipt was a row in the spreadsheet. Date, place of purchase, amount category. September, Kroger, $110, groceries for the week. September, pharmacy, $20. Darius had a cold, I bought him medicine. He asked me to get the most expensive ones just to be sure they worked. September. Trader Joe's, $30. He asked me to pick up beer and chips on the way home. Friends were coming over to watch the game. September. Drugstore, $85. New towels for the bathroom. He didn't like the old ones anymore. Too shabby, and so on. I flipped through receipts and typed. The numbers grew for September, for August, for July. By 3 o'clock in the morning, I had the spreadsheet for the last 3 months ready. I looked at the total sum at the bottom and smiled wryly. $4,500 in 3 months, based only on the receipts I had kept. And then there were purchases without receipts. The farmer's market, fruit, vegetables, bread from the small bakery on the way home, small items from the subway kiosk. Darius stirred in the bedroom. I quickly closed the laptop and went back to bed. I lay down quietly so as not to wake him and thought about the next day, about how things would proceed. The morning began as usual. The alarm clock rang at 7. I got up first. I always get up first. Went to the kitchen, turned on the kettle, got yogurt, bread, butter, cheese, and cold cuts out of the fridge. I set the table and waited for the water to boil. Darius came out 20 minutes later, sat down at the table, yawned, spread butter on his bread, and topped it with a cold cut. "Do you want coffee?" I asked. He mumbled with his mouth full. I made him coffee, the instant kind he liked, even though I couldn't stand it. I brewed green tea for myself. "Listen," he said, chewing a bite. "Should we go to the movies tonight? The new action flick is out." "Sure." I took a sip of tea. "Everyone pays for their own ticket." He choked on his coffee, coughing. "What's the matter?" "Well, we agreed yesterday, didn't we? Everyone for themselves? Or does that only apply to groceries and utilities?" "No," he hemmed and hawed. "I just thought, forget it. Let's do it next time." He quickly drank his coffee, got dressed, and left. He didn't even say a proper goodbye. I sat in the kitchen with my mug of cold tea and thought, it has begun. The first thing I did when I got to work was call the property management office. I sat down in the conference room, where it was quiet and no one would disturb me, and dialed the number. "Good afternoon," a pleasant voice answered. "Property Management, Home Solutions. How can I help you?" "Good afternoon, my name is Simone Harper. I'm the owner of the condo at 22 Willow Street, Unit 4B. I'd like to have the utility meters split." There was silence. Apparently the woman didn't hear that every day. "Have the meters split?" she repeated. "So you want separate bills?" "Exactly. The condo is registered to 2 owners, myself and my husband, Darius King. We'd like each of us to pay our half of the costs separately." "I understand." The woman was clearly confused. "One moment, please. I'll check with the legal advisor on how to implement that correctly." She put me on hold. Melancholy elevator music played. I looked out the conference room window at the neighboring office building, at the people rushing back and forth on the street below. A perfectly normal Tuesday morning. None of those people knew that a new life was beginning for me today. "Hello?" the woman returned. "Yes, technically that's possible. You'll need to come to our office with your ID and the property documents, fill out the form, and we'll split the meters. You'll receive separate bills starting the 1st of next month." "Wonderful. Can we set it up so that each of us pays strictly for our half of the square footage?" "That's possible." The woman seemed to be enjoying the challenge. "What is the total square footage?" 750 square feet. That means we split it 50-50, 375 each. The payment will be divided proportionally accordingly. "Excellent. When can I come by?" "We're open until 6 p.m. Just stop by whenever is best for you." I jotted down the address, thanked her, and hung up. Then I picked up my cell phone and opened the internet provider's app. I logged into my account. Darius and I historically used a joint account since we moved into the condo. I looked at the list of services. Basic internet, $30 a month. Premium sports package, $40 a month. 120 channels, all the football, basketball, and combat sports. Movie and series package, $20. I had added that at some point, but I hadn't turned on the TV once in the last year. Online streaming service, $10. Also mine, also unused. I deactivated the premium sports package, pressed the button, and confirmed the action. Savings, $40 a month. Then I canceled the movie and series package and the streaming service. Why should I pay for something I don't use? I only kept the basic internet. That's enough for me. Next, I opened my banking app. I have 2 accounts, a checking account and a savings account. Usually only the bare necessities remain in the checking account. I immediately transfer all surplus to the savings account. I currently have $42,000 there. My financial cushion. Darius knows nothing about it. I never felt it was necessary to tell him all the details of my finances. I created a new savings goal, called it Separate Budget, and transferred $5,000 from the savings account to it. That would be my separate fund for the first while. Then I opened the notes on my phone and started listing what I would no longer be paying for. Darius's half of the utilities, $225. Darius's groceries, household supplies. He can buy his own laundry detergent. His personal expenses, beer, cigarettes, other nonsense, gifts for his relatives, gas for his car. I added the last point with satisfaction. Darius is very proud of his car, a 10-year-old Honda, but he nurtures and cares for it. He only fills up at a specific brand-name gas station and buys expensive motor oil. Every Saturday, he has it cleaned at the car wash. $20 for the wash. I'd always paid for the wash, by the way, simply because he would say, "Simone, I'm running to the car wash quickly. Venmo me $20. And I had transferred it. "Why not?" my husband asked. "He won't be doing that anymore." At lunchtime, I went to the office cafeteria. I got vegetable soup, rice with chicken, and a juice. $8. Perfectly fine. I sat down at a table by the window, took out my phone, and continued planning. I received a message from Darius. "What's for dinner?" Normally, by this time, I would already know what I was going to cook. I would put together a menu in my head, sometimes even driving to the store at lunchtime if something was missing. I wrote back, "I don't know. I'll buy something on the way." The reply came a minute later. "But you wanted a separate budget. I buy for myself, you for yourself." "Simone, I meant the big expenses." "Don't take this too far. Darius, you said everyone for themselves. Those were your words. I'm just following your idea." He didn't reply again. I finished my lunch, threw away the tray, and went back to the office. I was in high spirits. For the first time in many years, I felt somehow liberated. You know that feeling when a burden is lifted from your shoulders? That's exactly what it was. After work, I went to the grocery store near the office, not our usual Kroger where I used to buy in bulk, but the smaller local chain. I walked through the aisles, bought a ready-made rotisserie chicken for dinner, $7. Fresh cherry tomatoes, $4. A small baguette, $1.50. A bag of iceberg lettuce, $2. Total, $14.50 for one dinner. Before, I would buy groceries for 2 days for both of us for $14.50. But now I was only buying for myself. And you know what the beautiful part was? I took exactly the chicken I liked, with herbs and garlic. Darius hated that and always asked for a plain one. Cherry tomatoes, my favorite kind, small and sweet. Darius said it was just showing off and overpaying for size. The baguette, white, crispy, with a crust. Darius preferred pre-packaged sliced bread. I carried the bag home and smiled. For the first time in 11 years, I was only buying what I wanted at the store, without considering anyone else's taste or preferences. I didn't get home until 8 p.m. I had purposely delayed, driving by the property management office to arrange the splitting of the meters. Then I had sat in a coffee shop, drunk a latte, and read a book. Darius was home, sitting in the kitchen with a sour face. In front of him was a plate with a few pathetic, open-faced sandwiches, bread, butter, cold cuts, the same cold cuts I had bought on Saturday. "Hey there," I said brightly. "Hey," he grumbled. I went into the kitchen, took my chicken, tomatoes, and baguette out of the bag, and arranged it attractively on a plate. I sliced the chicken, halved the tomatoes, cut the baguette into bite-sized pieces, drizzled everything with olive oil — I had hidden a bottle of good Greek oil — and seasoned it with salt and pepper. Darius looked at my plate like a dog. "That looks good," he said conciliatorily. "Mm-hmm." I bit into a piece of chicken. Delicious. Very delicious. "Want to share?" He tried to smile. "Darius, I bought this precisely for myself. You wanted everyone to buy their own food." "Oh, come on." He made a face. "I didn't mean it like that." "What did you mean?" I put down my fork and looked at him closely. "Please explain it to me." "Yesterday you said I was eating you out of house and home. You said you were feeding me and we needed a separate budget. I agreed, and now I'm living by the new rules. Everyone for themselves, right?" "Well, yeah, but—" he stammered. "I thought you would continue cooking normal meals and we would just split the grocery costs." "Darius," I said very calmly, "I work just as long as you do, 8 hours a day. Why should I cook after work?" "Because you're a woman!" It burst out of him. There it was. That had been in his head all these years. Understood. I stood up and put my plate in the sink. "I'm a woman, so I should cook, but at the same time, I'm eating you out of house and home and freeloading off you. Did I get the logic right? Don't twist my words." "I'm not twisting anything. I just want to understand the rules of the game. You set them yesterday, now we're playing by them." I left the kitchen and went into the bedroom. I lay down on the bed, took out my phone, opened my Excel sheet, and looked at the numbers. $4,500 in 3 months, just based on receipts. And how much would the total come to if I calculated honestly? Darius came into the bedroom half an hour later, lay down next to me, and tried to hug me. "Simone, don't be mad. I just wanted the best for us." "I'm not mad," I said quietly. "I agree with your suggestion. It seems fair to me. Everyone is responsible for themselves. But you understand that I didn't mean to hurt you." "Of course I understand." He hugged me tighter. "Maybe we took this idea too literally." "Let's try it this way for a month," I suggested. "And then we'll decide. You said Corey and Nia have been living like this for 3 years, and they're in harmony. Why shouldn't we try it too?" He sighed, but agreed. "All right. A month is a month." He fell asleep quickly, but I lay there with my eyes open, calculating in my head. The mortgage for the condo, $1,200 a month. Darius pays that, that's true. But the condo belongs to both of us. It's registered in both our names, so he's logically paying for his own home and not feeding me. The car. He bought it with his own money. That's also true. But I drive that car at most once a month. I have a company car. The company pays for taxis for business trips. Besides, I often take the subway. But the gas for that car, the wash, the maintenance, I've paid for all of that in the last 2 years. So Darius pays for his car that he drives himself. And me? What do I pay for, actually? For living in a condo that's half mine. For the food I eat. Well, paying for your own food is normal, right? It turned out that I was paying for his food, his comfort, his household. And he was only paying for himself and complaining that I existed next to him at all. In the morning, I got up at 7, as always, made myself coffee, poured it into my French press, and brewed real coffee, not that instant garbage. I took yogurt and a banana out of the fridge. That would last me until lunch. Darius got up 20 minutes later, came into the kitchen, sleepy and disheveled, and looked around. There was nothing on the table. "Where's breakfast?" he asked. "Make it yourself." I finished my coffee and put the mug in the sink. "Seriously, Darius, I have to go to work. I have a 9 a.m. meeting. Sorry." I got dressed and left. I deliberately didn't look back, although I felt his gaze on my back. At work, I did my routine tasks, reports, presentations, meetings, but the thought kept circling in my head, how should I proceed? Simply refusing everything is too primitive. I needed a strategy, a plan. At noon, I went to the cafeteria again, got borscht, potatoes with a cutlet, and salad. $10. I sat down at my favorite table. My mother called. I answered. "Hello, my daughter, how are you?" "Good, Mom." I'm working. Listen, are you free on Saturday? Dad and I wanted to stop by. We haven't been over in a long time. Saturday. On Saturday, Darius's parents usually come. Every Saturday, like clockwork. They come for lunch, I cook. We sit at the table for 3 or 4 hours. They eat, talk, then leave. That's been going on for about 7 years. Mom, let's do next weekend. We're busy this Saturday. All right, my dear, we'll call. Kisses. I hung up and thought, Saturday, Darius's parents, that would get interesting. Saturday came faster than I expected. All week, I methodically stuck to the new rules. I only bought groceries for myself, only cooked for myself. Darius complained for the first 2 days. Then he bought ready-made food, frozen dumplings, sausages, ready meals. Once, he brought home a gyro that made the entire stairwell reek of garlic. Every evening, he looked at me with hungry eyes. I deliberately cooked something delicious. Baked fish with vegetables, made pasta with seafood, seared salmon steaks. I ate slowly, savoring every bite, while he sat there with his frozen dumplings and suffered. On Wednesday evening, he couldn't take it anymore. Listen, isn't enough, he said, as I ate my warm salad with shrimp and avocado. Enough of what? Well, all this. I get it. I was wrong. Let's go back to normal life. Darius, it's been 3 days. I calmly cut off a piece of avocado. You yourself said a month. Let's try it for a month. But that's stupid. We're family. Exactly, we're family. And in a family, as you explained to me, everyone should be responsible for themselves. European style, right? He snorted and turned away. We didn't talk about the topic for the rest of the week. On Thursday, Brenda, Darius's mother, texted me, Simone, we're coming by Saturday as usual around 1 p.m. Your father called. We're looking forward to seeing Darius. I looked at the message and smiled. As usual, around 1 p.m. No question of whether it was convenient for us, whether we had plans, just a statement of fact. We're coming. Wait for us. Normally, I prepared for their visit like a holiday. In the morning, I ran to the market for fresh meat, vegetables, and herbs. Then I stood at the stove all day. Lasagna, because my father-in-law only liked my lasagna. Roasted chicken, because my mother-in-law didn't like the oven. It would dry out the meat. Salads, at least 3 kinds. Peach cobbler, absolutely. That was Darius's favorite. I set the table nicely, ironed the special tablecloth, got out the good china. They came, sat down, ate, praised. Rarely. Mostly there were remarks. Too little salt, the chicken is dry. Last time the cobbler was fluffier. They stayed until 5, sometimes 6 p.m. Then they left. I cleared the mountain of dishes, cleaned the kitchen, sank into bed, exhausted. And that was every Saturday for 7 years. I texted my mother-in-law, Brenda, we'll be home. Come by. I didn't write, I'm looking forward to it, or we're eagerly awaiting you. Just come by. On Friday evening, Darius asked, Listen, my parents are coming tomorrow. Are you going to cook something? No. I didn't even look up from my phone. I was scrolling through social media, looking at recipes for casseroles. For me. What? No? He was stunned. Exactly. I'm not cooking. Simone, these are my parents. Exactly yours, not mine. So it's your job to host them. But you always cooked. I always cooked with my money. I put down the phone and looked at him. I bought the groceries, stood at the stove for 5 hours, and cleaned up afterward. And you know what? Your mother hasn't thanked me once, but always found something to complain about. Well, Mom is just like that, he shrugged. She has her personality. I have my personality too, and I'm showing it now. If you want to host your parents, cook yourself or order food, or tell them there's no lunch. That won't work. What will they think? I don't know. That's your problem, Darius. I picked up my phone again. I'm no longer the free cafeteria for your relatives. He turned red. Don't you understand that this isn't normal? A wife must... I stood up, walked close to him, and spoke quietly, but very clearly. A wife doesn't must anything, Darius, especially not a wife who is accused of eating her husband out of house and home. You wanted a separate budget, and you'll get it down to the last consequence. He opened his mouth to say something, changed his mind, turned around, and went into the bedroom, slamming the door. And I returned to my phone. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, but I was calm. For the first time in many years, I felt like I was doing the right thing. On Saturday morning, I got up as usual, made coffee for myself, and had yogurt with granola for breakfast. Darius appeared in the kitchen around 10 a.m., disheveled, sleepless, angry. "The parents will be here in 3 hours," he said instead of a greeting. "Aha," I nodded. "And what do you suggest?" "I don't suggest anything. They're your guests. You have to figure something out." He stood around for a while, then grabbed his car keys. "I'm going out and buying ready-made food," he growled, and slammed the door. I smiled, took a shower, did my nails. I'd wanted to do that for a long time, but I never had the time. I put on nice makeup, put on jeans and a new blouse, a beige silk blouse I had bought last month and never worn. Darius had said at the time it was too fancy for home. Well, today was the perfect occasion. Darius returned at 12:30 p.m., lugging bags from Target, ready-made rotisserie chicken, salads in plastic containers, cold-cut and cheese platters. He put everything on the table as it was, in the store packaging. He didn't even take out plates. "There," he said. "They'll eat what's there." I shrugged, went into the living room, grabbed a book, and sat down to read in the armchair by the window. I didn't care. Punctually at 1 p.m., the doorbell rang. Darius went to open it. I heard voices in the hallway, the deep bass of my father-in-law, Walter, and the bright voice of my mother-in-law, Brenda. "Hello, come in," Darius said. "Darius, my boy," Brenda said, "have you gotten skinny?" They went into the kitchen. I stood up and went out to greet them, forcing a smile. "Good afternoon," I said. "Simone." My mother-in-law gave me a peck on the cheek. She smelled of expensive perfume and something sickly sweet. "How are you, my dear? Oh, and what is that you have on the table?" She looked around the kitchen. Her face gradually changed from a pleasant smile to confusion, and then to open indignation. "What? What is this?" She pointed her finger at the chicken in the store packaging. "Ready-made food?" "Yes, Mom." Darius tried to smile. "I bought it." "It's a delicious chicken, by the way." "Ready-made food," Brenda repeated. She looked at me. "Simone, you didn't cook?" "No," I replied calmly. "I didn't cook." "Why?" My mother-in-law's voice turned cold. "You knew we were coming." "I knew." I sat down on a chair. "But I no longer cook for Darius's guests." There was silence. My father-in-law cleared his throat. Darius stared at the floor. Brenda looked at me as if I had just announced I had joined a cult. "What do you mean, Darius's guests?" she said slowly. "We're family." "Darius and I have switched to a separate budget," I explained, unperturbed. "Everyone pays their own expenses. Darius felt I was eating him out of house and home, so now everyone buys their own food. That was his initiative." My mother-in-law slowly turned to her son. "Darius." There was steel in her voice. "Is that true?" "Well, yes," he stammered. "I just suggested a fairer system, like in Europe. Corey told me about it." "Corey?" My mother-in-law flinched. "That Corey who's on his third wife? You listen to him?" "Mom, what does that have to do with anything?" "It has everything to do with it," she interrupted him. "You told your wife she was eating you out of house and home, the same wife who earns more than you do, who stands at the stove all day every Saturday to host us." I looked at my mother-in-law in surprise. I hadn't expected that reaction. I thought she would call me to order and say a wife must cook. "Brenda, calm down," Walter chimed in. "Let's just eat quietly and talk afterward." "Eat what?" She poked the chicken with her finger. "This store trash? I purposely didn't have breakfast so I could eat Simone's lasagna. And what is this? Plastic salads." Darius was sitting there, red as a beet. I watched silently what was happening without intervening. I just observed. "My son." My mother-in-law sat down opposite Darius. Her voice was quiet but hard. "Do you even realize what you've done? Simone has spent $120, sometimes even $150, on your parents every Saturday for the last 7 years. Multiply that by 52 Saturdays a year. That's $6,240 a year. In 7 years, over $40,000. Just to host people who are fundamentally strangers to her. I hadn't even thought of that, but my mother-in-law was right. Over $40,000 just to host people who barely thanked me. And who pays the utilities? Brenda continued. And who buys your groceries and the gas for your car? How do you know? Darius began. How do I know? She smiled mockingly. I'm not blind, my son. I saw how Simone Venmo'd you money every time for the car wash, how you asked her to buy you this and that, how she came home from the store with heavy bags after work while you lay on the sofa with your beer. Darius was silent. My father-in-law was also silent, but he looked at his son disapprovingly. And you dare to claim she's eating you out of house and home? Brenda stood up. Come on, Walter, we have no business here. Mom, wait. Darius tried to stand up, but she held him back with a gesture. Darius, sort out your marriage, and when you've done that, call us. Until then, we're going home. My appetite is gone. They left. The door slammed shut. We were alone. Me, Darius, and the purchased chicken on the table. He sat there, staring out the window. I stood up, went to the kitchen, poured myself water from the filter, and drank slowly. Are you satisfied? He asked without turning around. And? I asked back. He didn't answer. After his parents left, a heavy, uncomfortable silence hung in the apartment that almost hurt. Darius was still sitting in the same spot in the kitchen, staring into space. I walked past him into the living room, took my laptop, made myself comfortable on the sofa, opened my spreadsheet, the same one with the expenses, and began adding new rows. Since my mother-in-law had so elegantly put the sum for the Saturday meals into words, I decided to calculate everything down to the last penny. The Saturday meals for his parents. Brenda was right. On average, $120 every Saturday, sometimes more if I bought something special. Multiplied by 52 weeks. That totals $6,240 a year. In the last 7 years, $43,680. Almost $50,000 for people who didn't even properly thank me. Next, my mother-in-law's birthday in March. Every year, I bought a gift. Not a cheap one, mind you. This year, it was a set of good cosmetics for $100. Last year, a gift certificate for a spa weekend for $200. Darius usually said, Simone, you know better what women want? And I bought it, of course, from both of us. My father-in-law's birthday in August. That was easier. He liked practical things, but still good ones. Shirts, tools, expensive bourbon. $150 on average. New Year's. Gifts for both of Darius's parents plus his sister Aisha, her husband Marcus, and 2 children. That was a story in itself. Aisha always casually mentioned that the children needed good gifts, not cheap junk. Last year, I bought her eldest son, Elijah, a game console for $330. For the younger daughter, Zoe, a doll with a dollhouse, also a few $100s. Together, almost $800 just for them. I sat there and typed. The numbers grew. With every new row in the spreadsheet, my astonishment also grew. How could I have overlooked all of this before? How could I spend so much and not notice it? Oh, yes. Darius's sister Aisha asked me for a loan of $800 in July. Very urgent, she said. I'll pay it back in a month. She hasn't to this day. I hadn't even reminded her. My mother-in-law came to visit for 2 weeks in September. Darius worked. I did too. Who entertained her? I did. Who drove her shopping? I did. Who paid for the taxi back and forth? Right. Who bought groceries for 3 instead of 2? Me too. Besides, she asked me to buy her a comfortable pillow because all of ours were so lumpy. An orthopedic pillow for $120. A bathrobe, because she forgot hers, $70. Slippers, $20. I leaned back against the sofa, closed my eyes, and calculated the total sum. In the last 7 years, I had spent... I opened my eyes, looked at the number at the end of the spreadsheet. $60,000. That was without the utilities. The groceries for both of us, the gas, and all the little things. That was only what went directly to his family. I saved the file, stood up, and went to the kitchen. Darius was still sitting in the same spot. In front of him was the untouched purchased chicken, the salads in the containers. Everything had grown cold. "Do you want to eat something?" I asked. "I'm not hungry," he grumbled. "Suit yourself." I took cheese, tomatoes, and the baguette I had bought yesterday out of the fridge, made myself a nice sandwich, brewed green tea, and sat down opposite him at the table. "You know," I said, biting into my bread, "I did some calculating." "What did you calculate?" He didn't even look up. "How much I spent on your relatives in the last 7 years." Now he looked at me. Something flickered in his eyes. Curiosity? Fear? "And how much?" he asked quietly. $60,000. I took a sip of tea. "That's just for them. Food, gifts, all the little things like pillows and bathrobes for your mother." He was silent, digesting the information. "That doesn't include the costs for our shared life yet," I continued. "Utilities, groceries, household supplies, your gas. If you add that up, we're looking at almost $50,000 more in the last 2 years. "You're exaggerating," he said, but his voice sounded uncertain. "Would you like to see the spreadsheet?" I took out my phone. "I've documented everything with receipts, date, place of purchase, amount. I can show you." He shook his head, stood up from the table, walked past me to the window, and stood there, staring out at the street. "I didn't know," he finally said. "What exactly didn't you know?" I asked calmly. "That you were spending the money, or that you were spending it on my family." "I thought," he stammered. "I pay the mortgage, right? $1,200 every month. That's a lot, isn't it?" "Darius." I put down my bread. "The condo belongs to both of us. You're paying for your share of the ownership. That's normal. It doesn't mean you're feeding me." "But I bought the car alone, and you barely drive it. In exchange, I pay for the gas and the car wash." "Well, yeah." He searched for words. "I paid for the trip this summer." "And I paid for everything else on that vacation. Restaurants, excursions, your shorts, my swimsuit that you pushed me to buy." He turned to me. "Are you trying to say that I'm not doing anything? That I'm some kind of parasite?" "No." I shook my head. "I'm saying that you are wrong when you think you are feeding me. We maintain each other, or rather, we were maintaining each other, until the moment you decided I was eating you out of house and home." "I didn't mean it like that." "Darius," I interrupted him. "You meant exactly that. You told me to my face that I was eating you out of house and home, that I was freeloading off you. Those were your words. You were angry. About what?" I stood up and walked toward him. "What were you angry about? That I work? That I earn well? Or that I don't fall to my knees in front of you and thank you for allowing me to live in our shared condo?" "Don't twist my words." "I'm not twisting anything." I spoke clearly and distinctly. "I just want to understand the logic. Corey told you something while fishing, and you decided it applied to us, without thinking, without calculating. You just decided that as a man, you automatically invest more." He was silent. I walked back to the table, finished my tea, and put the dishes in the sink. "You know what the worst thing is?" I said, without turning around. "Not that you accused me, but that you didn't even notice. All those years you didn't see how much I was doing for you, for us, for your family. You took it for granted." "Simone, I got up every Saturday morning at 8 a.m., I continued. "Drove to the market, bought groceries, came back and started cooking. Lasagna, 2 hours. Chicken, 1 hour. Salads, cobbler. By 1 p.m., there was a complete feast on the table. Your parents came, ate, left, and I washed dishes and scrubbed the kitchen until evening." "I didn't ask you to do that." "Didn't ask?" I turned to him. "And who said every Friday, 'The parents are coming tomorrow'? Are you cooking something? Who got offended when I suggested ordering food? Who said that bought food was disrespectful to guests?" He looked down. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "Apologies don't bring back lost time," I replied. "And they don't bring back the money either." On Sunday morning, I got up early. I had a plan, A big, detailed, well-thought-out plan. Darius was still asleep when I got dressed and left the apartment. First, I drove to the bank. I went into the branch and asked for an advisor. A young man, Dennis, according to his name tag, led me into a cubicle. "I want to open another account," I said. "A separate one with its own card." "A savings account?" he asked. "No, a regular checking account. I just want it to be a completely independent account." "No problem." He started typing something into the computer. "We'll do that right away." Minutes later, I had a new card. I transferred $1,000 from my savings account to it. That would be a reserve. Then I drove to a shopping center, went into a bedding store, and spent a long time choosing. I decided on a gray bedding set. Simple, understated, high quality. $140. Expensive, but good cotton, dense, feels nice. At the housewares store, I bought myself a new set of white, minimalist, beautiful plates, plus a new coffee mug, large and comfortable, and a new copper French press, a real one. At the bookstore, I bought 3 books I had wanted to read for a long time. At the cosmetics store, I bought a good face cream and a new lipstick. I spent about $500 in total on myself, just for myself. And you know what the beautiful part was? Very beautiful indeed. I didn't buy anything for us, nothing for the house, nothing that would benefit both of us, just what I wanted. I got home at noon. Darius was sitting in the kitchen with coffee and a sandwich and looked at my bags. "What did you buy?" he asked. "Bedding for me, dishes, cosmetics?" I walked past him into the bedroom and started making the bed. I stripped off the old linen and put on the new, gray, fresh, smelling new. Darius came into the bedroom and looked at the bed. "Nice," he admitted. "And for me?" "What about for you?" "Well, new bedding." "Darius." I held the duvet cover in my hands. "We have a separate budget. Remember, I bought for myself. If you want new ones, buy them yourself." "Seriously?" He had to laugh. "You're even splitting the bedding now." "What's wrong with that?" I continued making the bed calmly. "You wanted everyone to buy for themselves, so I'm buying." "But the bed is shared." "Well, if you buy a set, you'll have your half, and I—" He stood there looking at me as if I were crazy. But I methodically tucked the corners of the sheet and smoothed the wrinkles. I liked it. I liked seeing him slowly, clumsily, but surely beginning to understand. "Simone, that's enough." He tried to take my hand. "Let's stop this circus. I understand. I was wrong. Let's go back to normal life." 1 week has passed. I pulled my hand away. "You said a month. Let's stick it out until the end of the month, then we'll see." "But why?" I apologized. "Darius." I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at him seriously. "You apologized because your mother gave you hell, not because you understood it yourself, but because you were embarrassed in front of your parents. That's not true." "It's very true." I stood up. "If your mother hadn't intervened, you'd still be convinced today that you're right, that I really am eating you out of house and home." He was silent because I was right. We both knew it. In the evening, I cooked dinner for myself. I had bought a nice piece of beef on the way, about 12 ounces, tender, beautiful, expensive, $15 for the piece. I would never have bought that before. Too expensive. I would have taken something simpler, but now I was only buying for myself and could afford good meat. I seared it in the pan until it had a crispy crust on the outside and was pink and juicy inside. I made a salad of arugula with cherry tomatoes and Parmesan on the side. I opened a bottle of red wine, a good one too, that I had bought specially. Darius was sitting in the living room watching TV, or at least trying to. But the sports channels were gone. I had canceled them. He was flipping through the channels, swearing, flipping again. I set the table, sat down, cut off a piece of meat, put it in my mouth, and closed my eyes in delight. Perfectly cooked, melting on the tongue. Darius appeared at the kitchen door and sniffed. "What's that?" he asked. "Steak," I replied without looking up. Smells good. Mm-hmm. He stood around, finally came in and sat down opposite me. Listen, can I have a piece? I looked at him, long and intently. He squirmed in his chair, avoiding my gaze. No, I said simply. Why? Because this is my dinner. I bought it with my money for myself. But we're family, Darius. I put down my fork and knife. Stop it. You wanted a separate budget, and you're getting the full works. Don't try to hide behind the word family now. Family means sharing, and you didn't want to share. I didn't mean it like that. What did you mean? I leaned across the table toward him. That you want a separate budget, but you want me to continue cooking for you, washing your laundry, and cleaning up after you? Don't you think that's a bit one-sided? He stood up, slammed the door, and went into the bedroom. And I finished my steak and peas, drank the wine, washed the dishes, my plate, my fork and knife, my glass. I didn't touch his dishes, which had been in the sink since morning. The next day, Monday, I came home from work and saw that the apartment was tidy. Not perfectly, but tidy. Darius had vacuumed, dusted, and cleaned the kitchen floor. Oh, I said, surprised. Well, I thought, he came out of the bedroom. Since we're splitting everything now, we have to split the housework too. Logical. I agree, I nodded. I cleaned today. Tomorrow is your turn. I smiled. Perfect. Tomorrow I'll clean my room and my half of the bathroom. You clean yours. What do you mean, my half? Quite simple. We share the sink, the bathtub by days of the week. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you shower. Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, me. Sunday is neutral. We'll discuss that beforehand. Simone, are you kidding? No. I went into the kitchen. I'm completely serious. You wanted to split everything. Then we split everything. The refrigerator will be halved. The left half is mine. The right half is yours. The same goes for the freezer. I opened the fridge, took out all my groceries, put them on the left side, his groceries on the right, and drew a line on the middle shelf with my finger. That's the border. You don't touch my groceries, and I don't touch yours. Darius looked at me with wide eyes. Are you serious? He said slowly. Do you really want to live like this? You wanted a separate budget, I shrugged. Then you get it with all the consequences. Another week passed. Darius tried to get used to the new life. It was hard for him. On Wednesday evening, he came home angry from work, threw his bag into the hallway, went to the kitchen, and opened his half of the fridge. Inside were the sausages he had bought 3 days ago, a pack of frozen dumplings and a carton of milk. Dumplings again, he muttered. Then he looked at my half. There, I had neatly arranged fresh vegetables, fruit, a piece of salmon, blue cheese, olives, and hummus. Don't look at my side, I said without looking up from my laptop. I was sitting at the table finishing a work report. I'm not looking. Yes, you are. He slammed the fridge door shut, took out his sausages, and threw them into the pan. He didn't even add oil. Saving money, probably. I finished the report, closed the laptop, stood up, went to the fridge, took out my fish, and started preparing it. I made a marinade of lemon juice, olive oil, garlic, and herbs. Set the fish aside to marinate and turned on the oven to preheat. Darius was frying his sausages and watching me out of the corner of his eye. I felt his gaze, doing everything deliberately slow and thoughtful. I cut vegetables for the side dish, zucchini, eggplant, bell pepper, drizzled them with olive oil, and sprinkled them with Italian herbs. You know, Darius suddenly said, maybe we should come to some sort of agreement after all. Agree about what? I put the vegetables on a baking sheet. Well, about the food. Maybe you cook and I'll buy you groceries. I paused and turned to him. So you want me to stand at the stove and you just give me the money? Well, that's easier. You're a good cook. I have no idea how to do it at all. Darius, I work all day too, I said very calmly. Why should I cook? Well, women usually cook better. Usually? I smiled mockingly. Most head chefs are men, so that's no argument. Then let's hire someone. A cook, or whatever you call it. Excellent idea, I nodded. We'll pay 50-50. Sure. Good. A cook who prepares lunch and dinner for 2 people every day costs at least $3,000 a month. That would be $1,500 per person. Are you ready to pay? He was silent, calculating in his head. That's expensive, he finally said. Exactly. Expensive. And I did it for free for 11 years, every day. He found no answer, finished his sausages, went into the bedroom, and I baked my fish with vegetables, sat down at the table, ate slowly, and enjoyed every bite. The fish was perfect, tender, juicy, with a crispy crust. The vegetables were soft and aromatic. The next day, Thursday, Aisha, Darius's sister, called me. Simone, hey! She spoke brightly, as always. Listen, the girls and I are going shopping Saturday. Want to come? Hello, Aisha. Thanks, but I'm busy on Saturday. Ah, come on, she laughed. What are you busy with? Darius said you don't have any plans. I'm busy, I repeated. Sorry. Fine. There was now a metallic tone in her voice. Listen, since I have you on the line, Elijah's birthday is in a month. He'll be 10. We're planning a party and inviting his friends. Will you help us organize it? Elijah, her eldest son. I usually did indeed help organize my nephew's birthdays, ordering the cake, buying decorations, sometimes even finding and paying for entertainers. Aisha always said, Simone, you're so good at this, and I just don't have the time. No, I said curtly. What? No? Aisha was visibly irritated. You've always helped. I used to help. Not anymore. Why? A metallic tone was creeping into her voice now. What happened? Nothing happened. I've just decided not to take care of other people's children anymore. Other people's? She shrieked. They're your nephews. Aisha, Darius, and I have been together for 11 years. In all those years, you haven't wished me a happy birthday once. You haven't bought me a Christmas gift once. Instead, you always pointed out that your children need good gifts, not cheap junk. I'm sorry, but I don't consider them my nephews. How dare you? Now she was yelling. I'm going to tell Darius. He'll set you straight. Tell him, I replied calmly. Goodbye, Aisha. I hung up. My hands were shaking slightly. After all, I had been silent, smiling, and enduring for years, and now, for the first time, I said everything I thought. 10 minutes later, Darius called. His voice sounded strained. Simone, what did you tell Aisha? She's completely distraught. I told her the truth, that I won't buy gifts for her children anymore and won't organize their parties. But why? That's family. Darius, in 11 years, your sister hasn't greeted me first once. She hasn't asked me how I'm doing once, but she regularly asked for money, for help, for gifts. That's not family, that's exploitation. You're overreacting. No, I'm just stopping closing my eyes to it. And you know what? It's easier for me to breathe. I ended the call, silenced my phone, sat on the sofa, picked up the book I had bought last weekend, and started reading. Darius came home an hour later. His face was grim, his brows furrowed. He went to the kitchen, poured himself water, and drank it in one go. Aisha is very hurt, he said as he came into the room. Too bad, I replied without putting down the book. Simone, these are my relatives. Exactly, yours, not mine. But we're family. I closed the book, placed it on my knees, and looked at him. Darius, listen to me carefully. I spoke quietly, but very clearly. Family is when people are there for each other, when there is reciprocity, when you are respected and valued. Your relatives have exploited me for 11 years. I cooked, bought gifts, took care of their children, loaned them money, and in return I only received accusations and criticism. That is not family. That is a toxic relationship. Mom didn't criticize you. Seriously? I smiled mockingly. She found something to complain about every Saturday. Too little salt, too much meat. The cobbler isn't good enough. I haven't heard a single, simple, thank you, that was delicious. Not once. He was silent because it was the truth. And Aisha, I continued, who thinks it's normal to call me and ask me to organize her child's birthday without offering help, without asking if it's convenient for me, simply as a given. She thought you didn't mind. She didn't think at all, I interrupted. She didn't care how I felt. The main thing was that it was convenient for her. Darius sat on the edge of the sofa, lowered his head, and sat like that for a minute, maybe two. I really didn't notice, he said softly. All of this? I know. I'm sorry. An apology doesn't change the situation. I opened the book again. It's too late. On Friday evening, I stayed late at the office. We had a crisis. We were preparing a presentation for a major client. I got home around 10 p.m., tired, hungry, with the single wish to eat something and go to bed. I opened the door. The apartment smelled of food, of normal, human food, not sausages or frozen dumplings. I went into the kitchen. Darius was standing at the stove. 2 plates were set on the table. On the plates were spaghetti with some kind of sauce. "Hello?" he said, turning around and smiling. "I made dinner." I stopped at the door and looked at him. The plates, the stove. "Why?" I asked. "Well," he stammered, "I thought you'd be tired from work, so I decided to cook something." "Darius, we have a separate budget." "I know. I just wanted to—" He rubbed the back of his head. "I just felt like it. It's not forbidden, is it?" I went to the table and looked at the plates. The spaghetti looked edible. Not perfect, of course. The pasta was a bit overcooked, the sauce strange, but he had obviously made an effort. "Sit down," Darius said, "before it gets cold." I sat down, picked up the fork, and tasted it. The sauce consisted of tomato paste with canned meat and onions. Simple, but it satisfied the hunger. "Does it taste good?" he asked hopefully. "It's edible," I replied honestly. We ate in silence. I twirled the spaghetti around my fork and wondered if this was an attempt at manipulation, or if he had truly understood. "Listen," Darius said when we were finished. "I've done a lot of thinking this week." "And what conclusion did you come to?" "I was wrong." He put down his fork. "Very wrong. I didn't appreciate what you did. I took it for granted. And when you stopped doing it, I realized how much you did." I was silent and listened. "You know what the worst part is?" he continued. "Not that it's inconvenient for me now, but that I didn't notice it for 11 years. I just lived my life and didn't see that you were carrying almost everything." "And now?" I asked. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I want to make it right. I really do. Darius, the problem isn't that you don't cook or don't clean up." I stood up and started clearing the dishes. "The problem is that you don't respect me. You think I should do all of that just because I'm a woman, and if I also spend money on it, I'm eating you out of house and home." "I don't think that anymore." "You don't think that anymore." I put the plates in the sink. "Because you were confronted with the consequences. But what about in a month, in a year? Will you start taking what I do for granted again?" He was silent. He didn't know what to answer. "You see," I said, "you can't even guarantee that you won't revert to the old ways." I rinsed the dishes, mine and his, since he had cooked. I dried my hands and walked past him into the bedroom. "Simone!" he called. "What?" "I really want to make it right. Give me a chance." I looked at him for a long time. I saw something in his eyes that resembled sincerity or desperation. Hard to say. "We'll see," I said. "Time will tell." On Saturday morning, I woke up to sounds in the kitchen. I looked at the clock, 8:30 a.m. I got up, put on my robe, and went out. Darius was standing at the stove, frying eggs. 2 mugs of coffee and sandwiches were already on the table. "Good morning," he said when he saw me. "Breakfast is ready." I sat down at the table and took the mug. The coffee was good. He had finally learned to brew it in the French press and not drink that instant crap. "Plans for today?" he asked as he put the scrambled eggs on my plate. "None," I replied. "I'm going to rest, watch a movie, read a book." "Should we go for a walk?" he suggested. "The weather is nice." I looked out the window. Indeed, sunny, warm. Late October, but it was almost like summer outside. Good, I agreed. We can go for a walk. We walked through the park. Darius bought 2 coffees to go. He paid for both. I noticed that. We sat on a bench, drank coffee, were silent, but the silence wasn't tense. It was calm, somehow. "You know," Darius suddenly said, "my mother called me yesterday." "And what did she say?" "That I'm an idiot, and if I lose you, she'll whip me herself." I laughed. "Your mother is 59. How is she going to whip you?" "Well, figuratively." He smiled too. But I could tell by her tone that she was serious. It's the first time in my life Mom has ever called me out like that. "Your mother is a smart woman." "Yes," he nodded. "She also said that if I don't shape up, she'll be on your side in case of a divorce." I swallowed my coffee. The word divorce hung in the air between us, heavy, frightening. "Are you thinking about it?" he asked quietly. "About divorce?" I was silent. I looked at the people walking through the park, mothers with strollers, older couples, teenagers on bicycles. "I am thinking about it," I admitted. "I think about it often in the last 2 weeks." "And what conclusion have you come to?" "Not yet," I replied. I turned to him. "But I've understood one thing. I don't want to live like I lived before, where I carry everything and then am accused of parasitizing. Either everything changes fundamentally, or it's better to go our separate ways." He nodded. His face was pale. "I understand," he said. "And I'm ready to change. I truly am." "Words, Darius." I finished my coffee. "Words mean nothing. Actions are what matter." "Then look at my actions." He took my hand. "I'll prove it every day for as long as it takes." We sat like that for about 10 minutes, holding hands, silent. Then we walked home. On the way home, we stopped at the grocery store. Darius took a shopping cart. We walked through the aisles together. He asked what we needed to buy. I told him. He put it in the cart. At the checkout, he pulled out his card and paid for everything himself. $250 for groceries for a week for both of us. "Is the fridge shared again now?" he asked when we got home. "We'll see," I replied. "For now, put everything on your half. If you behave well, I'll consider combining it." He laughed. For the first time in 2 weeks, I heard his honest laugh. Maybe there's hope, I thought. Maybe he really understood. Or do I just want to believe it too much? The next few days passed surprisingly calmly. Darius tried hard. He really tried. Cooked breakfast, cleaned up after himself, even washed his own laundry a few times. He did ruin one of my blouses by throwing it in the washing machine with his jeans. It turned pale blue, but I kept quiet. I saw that he was trying. On Tuesday evening, I came home, and he had already cooked dinner. Buckwheat with chicken and cucumber tomato salad. Simple, but edible. "How was your day?" he asked as he put a serving on my plate. "Normal." I sat down at the table. "Lots of work." "And yours?" "Lots of work, too. But the boss praised my project." We talked calmly, without tension, like 2 normal people simply having dinner together. When had that become a rarity? When had we stopped simply talking like that, about nothing important? I couldn't remember. Maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. Our communication was limited to, "What's for dinner? Pay the utilities. The parents are coming Saturday." Everyday life had swallowed us, the routine. We were no longer a couple, but simply roommates sharing a condo. "What are you thinking about?" Darius asked. "Oh, work," I waved off. He nodded and didn't pry. Before, he wouldn't have even noticed I was thoughtful. He would have just finished eating and gone to watch TV. After dinner, we washed the dishes together. He washed, I dried. Then we sat down to watch a movie. Darius didn't whine that there were no sports channels. We found a crime thriller on a regular channel. We snuggled up under a blanket on the sofa. It was nice, quiet, almost like before, right at the beginning when we had just moved in together, and everything felt so right. Wednesday. I stayed late at the office. The meeting dragged on. I texted Darius that I would be late. He replied, "Good. I'll make dinner." I arrived at 9 p.m. The kitchen smelled of something delicious. Darius was standing at the stove, stirring something in a pan. "What's that?" I asked, looking over his shoulder. "Vegetable stew." He turned around and smiled. "I found a recipe online. Seems successful." I tried it. It actually tasted good. Even the vegetables were soft. The sauce, with herbs, was aromatic. "You can cook," I said, sitting down at the table. "Apparently." He sat down opposite me. "I'm surprised myself. I thought it was complicated, but no, not really." "See? And you said you had no idea." He was silent, eating without looking up. "I'm sorry," he said after a minute. "I've said a lot of stupid things." "Stupid things," I agreed. "I really didn't mean to hurt you with the eating out of house and home comment." He finally looked at me. Corey talked so convincingly about his system with Naya, and I just thought, in short, I didn't think. That's the problem. You know what hurt me the most? I put down my fork. Not the phrase itself, but that you really thought it, that I had been freeloading off you for 11 years, and you truly believed you were feeding me. I'm an idiot. He rubbed his face with his palms. A total idiot. I didn't notice for so many years how much you invest in us, in our home, in my family. I just took it for granted. And you know what the worst part is? If it hadn't been for these 2 weeks, I would never have noticed it for the rest of my life. I was silent because he was right. "When you stopped cooking," he continued, "I was angry at first. I thought you were doing it deliberately to punish me. But then I understood you're not punishing me. You're just showing me the reality. You're showing me what it's really like. And what is it really like? The reality is that I don't do anything around the house," he said honestly, without trying to justify himself. "Well, I'm lying. I did do something. Paid the mortgage, maintained my car, sometimes took out the trash, and that's it. And you did everything else: cooking, cleaning, washing, shopping, paying utilities, my family, gifts, organizing everyday life, everything. I'm glad you realize that." Darius took my hand across the table. "I know an 'I'm sorry' isn't enough. I know I can't dismiss it with an apology, but I really want to change, not for a week or a month, but forever." I looked at our hands. His large hand enclosed mine. Before, that touch used to evoke warmth. Now, only tiredness. "Time will tell," I said, pulling my hand back. "Words are just words." "I understand." We finished eating in silence. He washed the dishes, I dried them, then we went our separate ways. He went to the living room, I went to the bedroom. I lay on the bed with my phone, scrolling through social media without much interest, just to distract myself. I received a message from my friend Tiffany. We've been friends since school, but we rarely see each other lately. She has 3 children. She has no time for anything. "Simone, hey, long time no talk. How are you? Should we meet up this weekend?" I thought about the last time I'd met up with my friends, 3 months ago or longer. We used to meet regularly, at least once a month, but then it somehow stopped. I was always busy. Saturdays, Darius's parents. Sundays, cleaning up after Saturday, cooking for the week, laundry. Weekday evenings after work, cooking, cleaning. When was I supposed to meet up? "Let's meet on Saturday. I'm free in the afternoon." Awesome. Coffee at the Market Square at 2 p.m. Deal. I put my phone away. I remembered that usually on this Saturday, Darius's parents came, but they weren't coming anymore because I wasn't cooking for them anymore. For the first time in 7 years, I had a free Saturday, and I didn't even know what to do with it. On Thursday, my mother-in-law called me. I saw the name on the screen and froze. What did she want? To scold me? To defend her son? "Hello, Brenda," I answered cautiously. "Simone? Hello?" Her voice sounded soft and tired. "Am I bothering you?" "No, I'm on my way home from work." "Listen, my dear, I wanted to talk. Can you stop by my place tomorrow after work? Alone, without Darius." Interesting. Very interesting. "Good," I agreed. "What time works for you?" Around 7 p.m., I'll make dinner. Deal. I thought about why my mother-in-law wanted a one-on-one meeting without Darius all evening. It was atypical for her. Usually, all conversations were conducted in the presence of her son, or through him. On Friday, the day dragged on endlessly. I checked reports, held meetings, answered emails, thinking about the evening the whole time. By 6 p.m., I couldn't concentrate anymore. I packed my things, said goodbye to my colleagues, and drove to my mother-in-law's place. She and Walter lived in an older neighborhood in a simple pre-war apartment. The apartment was small, but cozy. I walked up the 4 flights of stairs. There was no elevator, of course. I rang the doorbell. Brenda opened it quickly. She looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair loosely tied up in a bun. Come in, come in." She let me in. "Walter is at his brother's house, so we're alone. Come into the kitchen. I'll make tea." I took off my coat and went into the kitchen. On the table were pastries with cabbage and with cherries. It smelled of fresh baking. "Sit down." Brenda put the kettle on and got out mugs. "We'll drink tea and talk woman to woman." She brewed the tea, poured it for both of us, and sat down opposite me. She was silent, gathering her thoughts. "Simone," she finally began, "I want to apologize to you." I raised my eyebrows in surprise. I hadn't expected that. "For what?" "For everything," she sighed. "For treating you like a servant, for not appreciating your efforts, for constantly nitpicking your cooking, even though you cooked better than I did." I was silent and listened. "You know, when I saw that purchased chicken on the table last Saturday," Brenda continued, "my first thought was, how dare she? How dare she not cook for us? We're his parents." "And what changed her mind?" I asked. "Darius's face." She smiled sadly. "He was sitting there, red, guilty. And suddenly, I understood. He really said awful things to you, and you simply paid him back in kind, showed him what it feels like to be exploited." She took a sip of tea and bit into a piece of pastry. "Then all those Saturdays came to mind," she continued quietly. 7 years. Every week we came to your place, and every time you set the table, you cooked from morning until noon. I saw how tired you were, saw that you were completely exhausted after we left. But you kept doing it, week after week, year after year. "And you kept coming," I added softly. "Yes," she nodded. "We came because it was convenient for us, because you never said no. We thought you enjoyed it, that you were happy to see us." "I wasn't happy. I know that now." Brenda stared into her mug. "I'm ashamed, Simone. Very much so. I raised Darius that way. Family is sacred. You have to respect your parents, help them, and he did help, only it wasn't him who helped. It was you, and I pretended not to notice." I didn't know what to say. For the first time in 7 years, my mother-in-law was talking to me honestly, without pretense, without an obligatory smile. "Tell me," she asked, looking me in the eyes, "are you going to divorce Darius?" "I'm thinking about it," I admitted. "I think about it often in the last 2 weeks." "And I would understand." She nodded. "More than that, I would support you. Darius behaved like an animal." She paused, searching for words. "Like a pig. Forgive the expression, but it's true." "He's trying to change," I said. "He cooks, cleans up, apologizes." "And do you believe him?" I thought about whether I believed him. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "I want to believe it, but I'm afraid that in a month everything will be back to normal, that he'll start taking what I do for granted again." "That's possible," Brenda admitted. "People don't change quickly, especially when they're 39 and have lived their whole lives a certain way." "Exactly. But you know what?" She put her hand on mine. "If you give him a chance, I'll help you. I'll kick him if he slips up again. I'll remind him that he almost lost you. I'll be on your side." "Why?" I asked. "He's your son." "Exactly." She squeezed my hand. "Because I love him and want him to be a better man, and for that, he needs someone who won't let him slip back, who holds the bar high. and that someone is you. We talked for another hour about life, family, and how Brenda herself had experienced a similar situation once. My father-in-law had also thought the wife should do everything around the house, and she had done it for 30 years until she got high blood pressure and was hospitalized. That's when Walter understood. But it was too late. You don't get your health back. "Don't repeat my mistakes," she said as I left. "If you feel like you can't live with Darius, go. Don't waste your life on a man who doesn't value you. 11 years is not an eternity. You still have at least 30, maybe 40 years ahead of you. Live them for yourself." I drove away from her with a strange feeling. On the one hand, relief, my mother-in-law was on my side. On the other hand, even greater confusion, because the decision now rested entirely with me. At home, Darius was waiting with dinner, casserole with chicken and vegetables. It smelled good. "How was it?" he asked cautiously. "With Mom. Normal." I sat down at the table. We talked. About what? About life. He didn't ask further, distributing the casserole onto the plates. We ate in silence. I thought about Brenda's words. Don't waste your life on a man who doesn't value you. Does he value me now? Or is he just afraid of losing his comfort? I looked at Darius. He was eating, staring at his plate. His face was tired, dark circles under his eyes. He is tired too, nervous too. 2 weeks of hell for him, cooking, cleaning, the realization of his wrong. Maybe that's the true change, when it's hard for a person, when they leave their comfort zone, but they still keep going. Or am I just trying to rationalize it again? "Darius," I began and paused. I didn't know how to continue. "What?" He looked at me intently. "Is something wrong?" "No, everything is fine." I stirred the casserole with my fork. "I was just thinking about us today." "And what conclusion did you come to?" There was tension in his voice. "I don't know," I admitted honestly. "You've changed, very much so. But I also can't forget what you said about eating you out of house and home." He put down his fork. His face became serious. "Simone, I understand. I've regretted that sentence 1,000 times. If I could turn back time. But you can't," I interrupted. "That's the problem. The words have been said. You can't take them back. And even though my mind understands that you've changed, that you're trying, my heart doesn't forget. What should I do?" He looked into my eyes. "Tell me what I should do so that you trust me again." "I don't know." I shook my head. "Maybe nothing. Maybe some things can't be fixed." There was silence, heavy, oppressive. We sat at the table with the plates of casserole that he had cooked for 3 hours, and were silent. "Do you want to get a divorce?" he asked quietly. I thought for a long time. Do I want that? "I don't know," I finally answered. A month ago I was almost decided. Now, I don't know. You've become better. Our life has become better. But I don't love you anymore," I finished the sentence. Not a question, but a statement. And that's when I knew he was right. I didn't love him anymore. Maybe there was still affection, habit, even pity, but the love of before was gone. "I'm sorry," I said. He nodded and stood up. He walked to the window, stood there, and looked out at the street. "I ruined everything," he said in a whisper, "with one stupid decision. 11 years for nothing." Not with one phrase, I stood up too and walked over to him. "Darius, it's not about the sentence. It's about the fact that you really thought that. For 11 years, you didn't value me. The sentence just voiced what was always there. But I've changed." "Yes, you've changed," I agreed, "but too late. Change doesn't undo the past. It doesn't heal the wounds." He turned to me, his eyes red. "And now what? Are we getting a divorce?" "I don't know. I really don't know. I need time to think, to come to terms with myself." "How much time?" "I don't know," I repeated. "Maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe longer." He nodded and wiped his eyes. "Fine, I'll wait. I'll wait as long as it takes." We went back to the table and finished the casserole in silence. Each of us was thinking about our own fate. After dinner, he washed the dishes. I went to the bedroom, lay down on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. What should I do? Get a divorce? But he's changed. He's trying. He loves me in his own way. Stay? But the love is no longer there. There is respect, which has newly emerged. There is new comfort, but no love. Can you live without love just for the sake of comfort and habit? I don't know. The next day, Saturday, I drove to my parents' house. I hadn't been there in a long time. They lived in the next town over, 2 hours by regional train. I used to visit them at least once a month, but less often in the last year. I always lacked the time. My mother opened the door and hugged me tightly. "Simone, I missed you so much. Come in, come in. I baked a cake." It smelled of home, of cake, of my mother's hand cream, the smells of childhood. I took off my shoes and went into the kitchen. My father was sitting at the table reading the newspaper. "Oh, our daughter is here." He stood up and hugged me. "How are things? Work?" "Good, Dad. Everything's good." We sat down at the table. Mom poured tea, put out the cake. We talked about small things, work, the weather, my parents' neighbors. But Mom sensed it. A mother's heart cannot be fooled. "Has something happened?" she asked when my father briefly left the room. "Between you and Darius?" And I told her everything from beginning to end, the separate budget, the eating out of house and home, the cold revenge, Darius's change, my feelings. Mom listened silently, not interrupting, only shaking her head sometimes. "And what do you feel now?" she asked when I was finished. "I don't know, Mom." I wiped away my tears. "He's changed. He's trying. But I can't forget those 11 years, how I didn't notice it, how I tolerated it." "Simone," Mom took my hand. "Women often don't notice it because they get used to it, because they love, because they hope it will get better by itself. It's not your fault." "But I'm smart, educated, independent. How could I allow myself to be treated that way?" "Because you loved," Mom said simply. "Love is blind and foolish. It makes you endure, forgive, hope." "But now I don't love him anymore," I whispered, "and I don't know what to do." Mom was silent, poured us new tea, thinking. "Listen, my daughter," she finally said. "I can't decide this for you. This is your life, your choice. But I can tell you one thing. Don't live out of habit. Don't live out of pity. Don't live out of fear of not finding someone else. Live for yourself. If things are good for you with Darius, stay. If things are bad for you, go. And don't be afraid." "But he will suffer." "And were you happy during those 11 years?" Mom interrupted. "When you worked like a horse and were then accused of parasitism?" I was silent because there were no counter-arguments. "Think about yourself, Simone." Mom stroked my hand. "You're living your life, not his. Yours." I left my parents in the evening, sitting by the window on the regional train, looking at the passing fields, villages, stations. I thought about Mom's words. Think about yourself. When was the last time I thought about myself? My wishes, needs, dreams? I can't remember. A long time ago, far too long. For years, I lived for Darius, for his comfort, his family, his convenience. And what did I get in return? The accusation of parasitism. And now he's trying to make it right. Sincere, concerted efforts. But is that enough? I got home late. Darius was sitting in the kitchen with a mug of tea, waiting. "Hello?" he said. "How were your parents?" "Good." I sat down opposite him. "Mom sends her regards." Darius placed his hand palm up on the table, an invitation to take it. "I know you're thinking about us, about the future. And I want to tell you, I won't hold you back. If you decide to leave, I'll understand. I won't be offended. I won't interfere." I looked at his hand, but didn't take it. "But I want you to know," he continued, "I love you. I've always loved you. I just showed it poorly. I was selfish, an idiot, a blind fool. But I love you, and will love you, even if you go." "Darius, no. Let me finish." He looked into my eyes. This month has opened my eyes. I've seen who you really are. Strong, smart, self-determined. You don't need me. You chose me back then, and I took it for granted. I thought you belonged to me forever, and I could relax. And now? I asked. Now I know I can lose you, and that's terrifying, very terrifying. But if you decide to leave, I'll accept it, because you have a right to happiness, even if it's not with me. I stood up and went to the window. It was dark outside. The streetlights shone yellow. Sparse passers-by were rushing home. I need time, I said without turning around. A little more time. Take as much as you need, he replied. I heard him stand up, come closer, and stand next to me, but he didn't touch me. Just know, he said quietly, I'll wait and fight. For us, for you, until the end. 2 more weeks passed. I was still thinking, weighing, analyzing. At night, I lay there and calculated the pros and cons, like an accountant, like an analyst, coldly, rationally. Pros of staying. Darius has changed. The home is ours together. Habit, new comfort, financial stability together. Fear of loneliness. Cons of staying. No love, no trust. Memories of the past, fear of relapse. The realization that he didn't change on his own initiative, but under pressure. Pros of leaving. Freedom, the opportunity to start anew. A life for myself. Self-respect, honesty with myself. Cons of leaving. Loneliness, dividing assets. Judgment from some acquaintances. The need to rebuild life. Being 39, not 25. I calculated, analyzed, weighed, but there was no answer. My mind said one thing, my heart another. And what did my heart say? Nothing. It was silent, probably tired. In those 2 weeks, Darius and I lived like neighbors, polite, correct neighbors. He cooked, I washed the dishes. I did laundry, he hung it up. He cleaned up. I dusted mechanically. No arguments, but no warmth either. In the evenings, we sat in separate rooms. He watched TV. I read a book. Sometimes he came in and asked, "Do you want tea?" I replied, "Yes, thanks." He brought it, put it on the nightstand, and left again. We didn't talk about our feelings, didn't hug, didn't sleep together. I had moved to the sofa in the living room, saying it was more comfortable for thinking. He didn't object. Brenda called twice and asked how I was doing. I answered evasively, normal, still thinking. She didn't pressure me, only said, "Simone, no matter what you decide, I'm on your side. Don't forget that." Tiffany came to visit on the weekend, bringing wine and pizza. We sat in the kitchen. Darius had gone to a friend's house and left us alone. "And what have you decided?" Tiffany asked, pouring wine. "Nothing decided." I took the glass. "Tiffany, I don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't know. And what does your intuition tell you?" "Leave," I admitted, "but I'm scared." "What are you scared of?" "Everything." I took a sip. Being alone, not finding anyone else, regretting the decision, realizing after a year that I left for nothing. "Simone," Tiffany took my hand. "Listen, you can stay. Darius has changed. That's true. You could live together quite comfortably. He'll try hard. You'll maintain control. That will work. But you won't be happy." She looked into my eyes. "You'll be fine, but not happy. Do you understand the difference?" I understood only too well. "You know what my grandma always said?" Tiffany continued. "Better to regret what you did than what you didn't do. If you leave and regret it, it's your choice, your responsibility. If you stay and realize after 10 years that it was for nothing, you'll blame yourself for the rest of your life." After she left, I sat in the kitchen for a long time, finished the wine, and thought about Tiffany's grandma's words. Better to regret what you did. And suddenly, I understood. I had already made the decision, a long time ago. I had just refused to admit it to myself. I don't want to stay. I don't want to live in comfort without love. I don't want to wake up in 10 years and realize I wasted those years. I want to leave and start anew while I still have the strength, while it's still possible. I'm 39, not 20. Yes, but also not 60. I still have half my life ahead of me, at least 30 years, maybe more. Do I want to spend them like this? In a loveless marriage, out of habit and fear? No, I don't want that. The decision came easily, as if a heavy stone had fallen from my shoulders. I stood up, rinsed the glass, wiped the table, and went into the bedroom to Darius. He was back, lying on the bed, scrolling through his phone. "Darius, we need to talk," I said. He immediately understood from my tone, put down his phone, and sat up. His face went pale. "Have you decided?" Not a question, a statement. "Yes." I sat down on the edge of the bed. "I've decided." He was silent, waiting. His hands were clenched into fists. "I'm leaving," I said softly, but firmly. "I'm sorry, Darius. I really regret it, but I'm leaving." He closed his eyes, exhaled a long, drawn-out breath. He opened his eyes. They were moist. "Why?" he asked hoarsely. "I changed, didn't I? I'm trying hard. I'm doing everything you asked me to." "I know," I nodded, "and I really appreciate that, but that's not what it's about." "Then what is it about?" "It's about the fact that I don't love you anymore." I forced myself to look him in the eyes. "Forgive the cruelty, but it's the truth. The love is gone, and your changes didn't bring it back." "Maybe it will come back." Despair was in his voice. "If I wait longer, if I get even better." "Darius?" I shook my head. "Feelings don't work that way. You can't fall in love according to a schedule. You can't force yourself to feel. You can become the ideal husband, but if the love is missing, what's the point?" He lowered his head. His shoulders slumped. He cried softly, controlled, but he cried. It hurt me to watch. I wanted to hug him, comfort him, but I knew I couldn't. Pity is a poor foundation for a marriage. "When?" he asked without lifting his head. "I want to move out in 2 weeks," I replied. "I've already found a condo, a studio apartment near work. I'll rent it. Rent first, then we'll see." "And the condo here?" "It belongs to both of us," I spoke calmly, factually. "The mortgage still has about 5 years left. We can sell it and split the money. Or you keep it, and I get paid for my share however you decide." He lifted his head. His face was wet with tears. "Keep it," he said. "I don't want this condo. I don't need it without you." "Darius, you don't have to do that. This is your home too." "No." He stood up and went to the window. "We'll sell it, split the money, and both start anew, fairly." I nodded, silently stood up, and walked toward the door. "Simone?" he called. I turned around. "Forgive me," he said. "Forgive me for everything, for the words, for the years, for the blindness. If I could turn back time." "But you can't," I said gently. "You can't change the past. You can only learn from it." "I did that." He smiled sadly. "Too late, but I learned." I held out my hand. He took it, squeezed it tightly, and let go. I left the room, closed the door, sat down on the sofa, took out my phone, and texted the landlady of the condo I had viewed last week. "I'll take it. When can I move in?" The answer came immediately. "Tomorrow, if you like." "Glad you decided." I decided. Yes, I decided. And strangely, I wasn't scared. I was calm. It felt right. The next 2 weeks passed with packing. I methodically sorted things into boxes. Mine, his, ours. There wasn't much of ours. Dishes, bedding, a few small things. I suggested splitting it evenly. Darius refused. "Take everything with you. I'll buy new stuff." He helped pack, carried the boxes, ordered the moving van for moving day. We barely spoke, only about things. "Are you taking this pot?" "Yes, take it." "And the picture?" "Take it too." He gave everything up without resistance, as if doing penance. I didn't protest. I took it. This is my new life. I need things for it. Brenda came by the evening before the move. She hugged me at the door, tightly and for a long time. "Well done," she said softly. "You're doing the right thing. Don't waste your life." But what about Darius? I asked. He's your son. Exactly. She stepped back and looked into my eyes. I love him, but I'm not blind. He made a huge mistake and is now paying for it. That's fair. Are you angry with me, Simone? She held my face in her hands. I'm not angry with you. I'm angry with myself for not ending all this sooner, for staying silent when I saw you struggling, for taking advantage of your hospitality. Forgive me. We sat together for a while longer, drank tea, and talked about my and Darius's future. Brenda said she would keep an eye on her son, ensure he didn't fall back into old patterns, that he didn't seek a new victim to serve him. Let him live alone for a while, she said. He needs to learn independence. It will be good for him. Moving day came quickly. Saturday. The moving van arrived at 9 a.m. 2 movers carried all the boxes out in an hour. I didn't take any furniture. The rental condo is fully furnished, just my belongings. Dishes, small appliances. Darius stood in the hallway, watching as my life was carried away in boxes. His face was pale, his eyes empty. When the last box was carried out, I walked over to him. Well, this is it, I guess, I said. Yeah, he nodded. This is it. We stood there silently. The farewell was awkward. What should I say? Thanks for 11 years? Sorry it didn't work out? Good luck in your new life, Simone, he said suddenly. I want you to be happy. I really do, even if it's without me. Thank you. I tried to smile. You too, good luck. Find someone who loves your true self, the changed, better self. I'll try. He smiled sadly too. Eventually, not so soon. I held out my hand. He squeezed it tightly and let go. I left the apartment, went down the stairs, and sat in the moving van next to the driver. He started the engine. Ready to go? He asked. Ready to go? I replied. The van drove off. I turned around. Darius was standing on the balcony watching us go, raising his hand and waving. I waved back and turned around to look ahead, to where my new life was beginning. The condo was small, but bright. A studio apartment, 350 square feet, clean, freshly renovated. The furniture was simple, but comfortable. Everything necessary was there. The movers put down the boxes. I paid them, locked the door, and looked around. Quiet, empty, mine. For the first time in 11 years, I was living alone in my own place, by my own rules. A little scary, but above all, free. I started unpacking the boxes. Slowly, thoughtfully, I put things in their place. Dishes in the cabinets, clothes in the closet, books on the shelf. I created my own space. By evening, the condo looked livable, not yet cozy. Coziness takes time, but livable. I ordered food, a large seafood pizza. I hadn't ordered that before. Darius didn't like seafood. Now I could. Now everything depended only on me. I ate the pizza right out of the box, sitting on the sofa, looking out the window. It got dark outside. The streetlights turned on. People were rushing home to their families, to their loved ones, to their familiar lives. And I was sitting alone in a new condo with pizza out of a box. And you know what? I was fine. I was calm. It felt right. Yes, 11 years with Darius. Yes, there were good times. There were in the beginning. But the last years were not life. It was existence, everyday life, routine, servitude. Now I was free. I could do what I wanted, eat what I wanted, watch what I wanted, sleep as long as I wanted, meet whoever I wanted, live for myself. Would it become scary? Probably. Loneliness is multifaceted, sometimes heavy, sometimes bright, but in any case, it's honest. No illusions, no pretense, just me and my life. I picked up my phone, texted Tiffany. I moved. Thanks for your support. Come visit me. I'll show you my new place. The answer came immediately. Hooray! I'm proud of you. Coming tomorrow with champagne. I texted Mom. Mom, I moved. Everything is good. Don't worry. Mom replied, Well done, my daughter. That was the right decision. Come visit us when you've settled in. I texted Brenda. Thank you very much for everything, for your understanding and support. I'm in my new condo." She replied, "Be happy, Simone. You deserve it." I put my phone away, lay down on the sofa, covered myself with the new blanket I had bought for my new life, and closed my eyes. Tomorrow is a new day, a new life, new possibilities. Scary, yes, but also exciting. A blank slate lies before me. I can write whatever I want on it. And I will write. I will write my story without compromise, without sacrifice, for myself. Months have passed. 6 months since I moved into my studio apartment. 6 months of new life. And you know what? I haven't regretted it once. Not for a second. The first month was hard, not because I missed Darius. No, I just had to get used to the loneliness. For 11 years, you're not alone. You get used to the presence of another person, his sounds, smells, habits, and then, snap, it's quiet. No one slams doors, no one turns on the TV, no one asks what's for dinner. In the first week, I woke up and reached out my hand to the other side of the bed. Then I remembered, no one is there, and no one will be. It was strange, but not sad, just strange. In the second month, I got used to it. More than that, I started enjoying it. I woke up on Saturday at 10 a.m. Wonderful. No one is demanding breakfast. I felt like pizza for dinner, so I ordered it. No one wrinkled their nose because I wasn't cooking again. I decided to watch a series until 3 a.m. No problem. No one complains that the light is bothering their sleep. The freedom was sweet, very sweet. Work went well, even better than before. It was as if I had been freed from an invisible burden. My head worked clearer. Projects came easier to me. 3 months after the move, I was offered a promotion, head of the analysis department, plus $800 in salary. I accepted without thinking twice. $5,800 a month. All mine. No one is saying I'm eating anyone out of house and home. No one is asking me to Venmo money for the car wash. No one expects me to pay for other people's food, other people's parties, other people's lives. I bought a membership at the gym, expensive, at a good club. I go 3 times a week. Yoga, swimming, weight training. I've lost 5 pounds. Not because I had to, I just felt like it for myself. I feel better, lighter, younger. I refreshed my wardrobe. Before, I rarely bought clothes. All the money went to the house, to Darius, to his family. Now I can afford a nice dress, good shoes, quality cosmetics. Not out of necessity, out of desire. Tiffany and I meet every week now, sometimes at my place, sometimes at hers, sometimes at a coffee shop. We talk about everything: work, her children, men, not mine yet, life. She has become more than just a friend. She is a rock. I met my neighbor, Lola. She's 35, also divorced, works as a marketing expert. We sometimes drink wine in her kitchen, chatting until midnight. She tells me about her divorce. A similar story, only her husband also cheated on her. I tell her about mine, about the eating out of house and home and the cold revenge. We laugh. Sadly, but we laugh. You know what the funniest thing is? Lola says one day as she pours more wine. They all think they're irreplaceable, that we'll fall apart without them. But we're living, and not just living, we're thriving. She's right. I am thriving. My hair has gotten longer. I decided not to cut it short anymore as I used to. Now it just brushes my shoulders. I dyed it a warmer shade. My face looks fresher. No more constant tiredness in my eyes. I dress in brighter colors. Before, I was always in black, gray, unremarkable. Now, colors, patterns, femininity. Darius has called a couple of times in these 6 months. The first time, a month after the divorce, he asked how I was. I answered briefly, politely. He said he missed me, thought about me, still had hope. I said, "Darius, let it go. It's over. Move on." He was silent, said goodbye. The second time, he called 4 months later. He said he had sold the condo. The money was ready to be transferred. My share, $100,000. I gave him my bank details. The money arrived the next day, $100,000. I put it into a fixed deposit account. It's supposed to stay there and grow. Eventually I'll buy my own small condo, or I'll invest it in something else. I don't know yet. I'm not in a hurry. I have time. Darius also asked that time, "Are you seeing anyone?" I answered honestly, "No, I'm not ready yet." "I am ready," he said softly, "if you ever change your mind." "I won't change my mind," I interrupted. "I'm sorry. Move on, Darius. Be happy." He didn't call again. Brenda sometimes texts me, asking how I am. She shares news. Darius rented an apartment in another neighborhood. He's working, living alone. He learned to cook properly, even cleans up regularly. "Grown up finally," she writes. "Too bad it's so late. I'm genuinely happy for him. He should live. He should be happy without me. I wish him well, but I don't want to go back, and I won't go back." Aisha tried to write a long text message once, along the lines of, "We all make mistakes. You have to forgive. Family is more important than grudges." I read it. I didn't reply. I don't want that toxicity in my life. I've removed it forever. I see my parents more often now. I drive to them every 2 weeks. Mom bakes cake. Dad tells the news about the neighbors. We sit in the kitchen, drink tea, just talk openly, without rushing. "Are you happy?" Mom asks me once. I think. Am I happy? "Yes," I finally answer. I don't know how to explain it, but yes, I'm happy in my own way. "Don't you miss him?" She follows up. "Darius, the family." I smile mockingly. "Mom, that wasn't a family. That was a servitude service for a man and his relatives. A true family is partnership, equality, respect. We didn't have that. And now," my father chimes in, "are you going to be alone for the rest of your life?" "I don't know, Dad," I answer honestly. "Maybe I'll meet someone, maybe not. But you know what? I'm not scared." I used to be afraid of loneliness. I thought it was worse than a bad relationship, but that's not the case. Loneliness is when you're alone, but in a bad relationship, you're lonely together. That's worse, much worse. My parents are silent, digesting what I said. "Smart," Mom finally says. "You've grown up in these months." I just stopped lying to myself. I shrug. I met an interesting man at work, Jamal. He's 42, works in the neighboring department, head of the IT division. Tall, athletic, with graying temples. Divorced for 3 years. 2 children from his first marriage live with their mother. He stays in touch, pays child support, is involved in their lives. We met in the break area. I don't smoke, but sometimes I go out for some air. He was smoking. We started talking. We had a lot in common, both divorced, both in the analysis field. He also started as an analyst. We both love books, movies, travel. He invited me for coffee after work. I agreed. We sat at the coffee shop for 2 hours, talking about everything. Easy, free, interesting. Then he invited me to the movies, then to dinner, then to an exhibition. We've been seeing each other for a month. Not every day, once or twice a week. We're taking it slow. Both of us have been burned in the past, both cautious. But I feel good with him. He doesn't demand anything, doesn't pressure me, doesn't expect me to serve him. We're equals. He pays for dinner. I pay next time. He cooks when I'm at his place. I cook when he's at mine. We split everything 50-50, but not out of principle. Because it's fair, because it's right. And you know what the most important thing is? He listens to me. When I talk, he listens. He doesn't nod while looking at his phone, doesn't think about something else. He listens, asks questions, is interested, remembers small things, that I like lattes, not cappuccinos, that I prefer white wine to red, that I don't like roses but love peonies. This isn't love yet, maybe, but it's a chance for a new relationship, healthy, equal, without grudges, accusations, unspoken expectations. Yesterday we went for a walk in the park. Spring, warm, the trees are blooming. He took my hand. I didn't pull it away. We walked in silence, just walking, hand in hand, and it was peaceful, right? "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About life," I smiled. "How unpredictable it is." "That's true," he agreed. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have believed I'd meet anyone. And now, here we are. I didn't believe it either, I admitted. I thought that was it. The end. I'd be alone for the rest of my life. And how scary it was at first. Yes, I thought. Very scary. But then I understood. Being alone is better than being in a bad relationship. And the fear disappeared. It was the same for me. He nodded. In the first year after the divorce, I was afraid to look at women. I thought they were all the same. They all just want something from you. But it turned out, no, you just have to look for the right one. And did you find her? I asked cautiously. He stopped, turned to me, and looked at me seriously. I don't know, he replied honestly. It's still too early to say, but the fact that I feel good with you is a fact. Me too, I smiled. We walked to my building. He accompanied me to the entrance. He didn't try to come up. He knew I wasn't ready yet. He respected my boundaries. That's rare, mind you. Very rare. Will I see you Friday? He asked. I was going to suggest we go out of town. There's a nice place, a lake, woods. We could have a picnic. Sounds good, I agreed. Let's do that. He kissed me on the cheek, lightly, unobtrusively. He waved goodbye and left. I went upstairs, unlocked the door to my condo. Small, cramped, but already so familiar. Mine, only mine. I brewed myself a proper coffee. In the French press, poured it into the large mug I had bought on the first day of the move. I sat on the sofa by the window and looked out at the street, at the city, at the life behind the glass. Next week is my birthday. 40 years. A round number. I used to be afraid of that number. I thought it was the end of youth. But now I'm not afraid. 40 is not the end. It is the beginning of the second half of life. Conscious, mature, free. Tiffany suggested throwing a party. I agreed. I'll invite friends, colleagues, my neighbor Lola, maybe Jamal, a small group, wine, snacks, conversation, without fanfare, without excitement, just a celebration of life. I took out my phone, opened my notes. The spreadsheet with the expenses for 11 years is still saved there. I open it sometimes, not out of revenge, but simply to remember, to not repeat mistakes. $60,000 for Darius's relatives, plus about $50,000 for our shared life. Utilities, groceries, his personal expenses. Over $100,000 in total in 11 years for a man who then accused me of eating him out of house and home. Sad and comical at the same time, but educational, very educational. I understood the most important thing. I will never tolerate disrespect again. I will never sacrifice myself for someone who doesn't appreciate it. I will never be silent when I should speak. And never, hear me, never will I be afraid to be alone. Because loneliness is not a punishment. It is a choice, sometimes the only right choice. If someone had told me 6 months ago that I would be happy after the divorce, I wouldn't have believed it. I thought it would be hard, painful, scary. And it was. It was like that for the first month, but then it became easy, bright, free. I don't know what will happen next. Maybe something will come of Jamal, maybe not. Maybe I'll meet someone else, maybe I'll stay alone. But you know what? That doesn't scare me. Not at all, because I learned the most important thing, to be happy without a man. Not despite his absence, but independently of him. Happy just because of life, because of myself, because of freedom. I finished my coffee, stood up, went to the mirror, and looked at my reflection. 40 years. Wrinkles around my eyes, gray hairs that I no longer dye. But my eyes are lively, my face is radiant. The smile is real. Hello, I said to my reflection. Nice to meet you. I'm Simone. I'm 40 years old. I live alone, earn well, I'm not dependent on anyone, and I'm happy just because I am. My reflection smiled back. And you know what the biggest victory is? Not that I left Darius, not that I started a new life, and not even that I met Jamal, but that I found myself, my true self, without masks, without roles, without expectations, and I loved myself. Finally loved. That is priceless. worth much more than the $100,000 I spent on someone else's life. That is invaluable. I opened my laptop, created a new file, called it My Life Rules, and started typing. Rule 1. Never tolerate disrespect, not from a husband, not from relatives, not from anyone else. Rule 2. Address problems immediately. Don't let grudges pile up for years. Rule 3. Don't be afraid of being alone. Loneliness is better than a bad relationship. Rule 4. Demand equality. Don't serve, but live as partners. Rule 5. Spend money on myself without guilt. I have a right to a beautiful life. Rule 6. Don't sacrifice. Sacrifices are never appreciated, never. Rule 7. Be aware of my own worth. I don't need anyone. I choose someone. The difference is huge. Rule 8. Live for myself, not for my man, not for children, if I have them, not for my parents. For myself, because this is my life, and I will live it the way I want. I saved the file, printed it out, and hung it on the refrigerator. It will hang there reminding me every day who I am, what I'm worth, and that I will never, hear me, never go back to the past. It got dark outside. The city turned on its lights. Somewhere out there, Darius is living alone in his condo. Maybe he's thinking of me. Maybe he regrets it. Maybe he has already found someone new. I don't know. And you know what? I don't care. I absolutely don't care. That is his life, his path, his lessons. And I have my own life, my own path, my own lessons, and I'm just starting to learn them. 40 is not the end. It is the beginning of a real life that I choose myself. And it will be wonderful. I promise myself, it will be wonderful. I'm really glad you're here and that I could share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is. I'm so curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. If you want to support me a little extra, you can also send a small donation. I share new life stories for you every single day. And now, 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen so you can choose what to watch next.